It is Friday, and I can hear myself. Oh, wait, I know what I've done. Right, there we go. Hello. Okay, good. It is Friday, and we're going to be talking today. Obviously, you can see World Cupper, so there's no surprise here. We're going to be talking about tennis. Yes, we are. We're then going to move on. Hopefully, we're going to be joined by both Dave Betts and Jay Paglia from Sports Keg to talk some UFC. Then we move over to a bit of esports with the lovely Adam Booth and the Spanish GP finally with Eric. So today in tennis, we are talking with the lovely World Cupper, the Madrid WTA and ATP semis and finals. Now, obviously, massive clash at the moment. Semi-finals: Sloane Stephens, Kiki Bertens. Kiki Bertens dominating. Is it fair to say we're going to see her in the finals?
I do think that she pulls this off in a straight sets victory. And if you haven't already, if you can track down some Kiki Bertens for a title in Roland Garros, she was available at 18, 20 to 1, depending on where you were shopping. Earlier this week, had some conversations with some of my sharp friends in the tennis betting space, and they were all very high on Kiki Bertens this week to do well, and in the fortnight in a couple of weeks at Roland Garros. So track down some Kiki Bertens futures if you don't already have some, and she's gonna have her hands full tomorrow though, because she goes up against French Open favorite, Romania's favorite tennis player,
and Alex's. The third love of Alex's life. He's got his wife and his beautiful daughter, and then I think Simona is a very close third in Alex's life. Yeah, it's but so you think you think that even before Kiki Bertens has played Simona Halep, you're like, take Kiki Bertens, because I'm going to guess that those odds will drop on Kiki Bertens.
No. Her odds should come. Her odds are going to shorten substantially after this run, after this match. I mean, she's performing very, very well right now. She's kind of, you've seen her game improve over the course of the last several seasons. Her best surface, in my opinion, is clay. She's won some pretty impressive titles in the last 24 months or so. So, she's due for a legitimate run here. And, I mean, I'm expecting this final between, granted, I'm probably jinxing the heck out of her. So sorry to all the Dutch tennis fans. I apologize for jinxing Kiki Bertens. She's a wonderful player. She should go through to the finals. But let's just, let's, for the sake of content here, let's pretend like we know it's going to be Simona versus Kiki in the finals tomorrow. That should be an extremely competitive match. Simona Halep played Belinda Bencic today. That was one of the better tennis matches of the whole season so far. It was so good. And you look at the scoreline, maybe you wouldn't think that because it was a 6-0 in the third set. But Simona really showed that she had the fitness and the ability to outlast Bencic. Bencic was making some nice shots, and Simona was tracking everything down. Really got it done with her patented defense. And it was impressive to see it play out. And I'm glad Bencic is back on tour. She seems to bring out the best of a lot of the other women on tour when they go head to head. Simona tomorrow in the finals. She's got the goods to go the distance. I'm expecting that one to be a long, 3-set, match. So over 2.5 sets, you're probably going to get a nice price in the plus money range, in the 2.2 ish. I'm going to guess. And I think that's worth the swing. Games over is probably worth the swing too, because I don't see a world where this gets done relatively quickly in 6-3, 6-4 or something like that. This is going to be a long match with some back and forth.
Yes, I know. I agree with you. Actually, I think this is going to be a long match. But obviously, both being clay surfaces, if Halep were to win, what would you be would you be nervous about your Kiki Bertens ticket?
Well, I'm already holding Halep liability. So Halep should be the favorite for the French Open and will be the favorite. And the fact that Halep is performing so well here in Madrid is especially a great sign, because this is not necessarily as slow a surface as you have at Roland Garros. And so, they're playing at altitude. Madrid is about 3,000-ish feet or so. It's not like, it's not like the Alps or something, but it's definitely higher than sea level. And because of the thinner air, the ball flies a little faster. The clay itself is a little bit more worked, so you get a little bit more bounce. It doesn't tend to eat the ball like the clay in Roland Garros does. So you're going to have a pretty clear sign that she is in really good clay form for playing well on this faster clay surface. And I think that goes for both women. Both women are great clay players, and their games are even more devastating on the slower clay. So I think this tomorrow, watch that match, take notes. That is reasonable. Unless something weird happens in the draw, that's like your final preview for French Open.
Yeah, wow. And because I was going to ask if whether there was any differences, obviously, between the two clay courts, and very interesting you're sort of saying about the altitude and things. So basically, it's quite a good warm up to play in Madrid, and then it should be easier based on
it kind of gives the players on tour, both men's and women's, who rely more on their serve, who rely more on their shot making. It gives them, it levels the playing field a little bit, because it's a little bit more difficult to track down the winners and things like that. It's traditionally, if we flip over to the men's side, it's been the one kind of major clay tournament on the men's side that Rafa Nadal has had the most trouble winning consistently, and a lot of that is because he's obviously the best ever to play on clay, but this particular clay plays the most like hard court, or like a slow hard court, and a lot of that is because of the altitude and because of the way that they prepare the surface.
I'm just going to read some comments now. So Failed at Life says, no sun for Whale Kappa. Yes, that was the first thing actually I said. Very surprised to see not this bright blue sort of halo around him. And then he says Adam Booth says, looks like he's in England. Yes, he does look like he's in England. But he says the shirt is bright though. They're liking the bright shirts. Exactly.
Yeah, I called in the sun. I said, hey, make sure these clouds are out of here in time for my show with Natalie. And the call didn't get through to the right people, and here we are with freaking overcast today.
The wardrobe will just have to do. The wardrobe will bring the sunshine. All right. Let us talk now. Obviously, so men's semi-finals. Who are you liking? Obviously, Rafael Nadal, king of clay, 2.62. Obviously, to be the Madrid Open winner. Who do you agree with that right now, and who do you see meeting him in the finals?
Yeah, I think Nadal should be a heavier favorite to win this title than he currently is. I think there's value on him as a parlay leg tonight when he takes on Stan Wawrinka. Wawrinka's a nice player. He's got some nice shots. He doesn't have the class on clay to compete with Rafa, in my opinion, and I think Nadal will take care of him relatively easily tonight. Nadal kind of got a rude wake-up call in both Monte Carlo and Barcelona, getting beaten pretty convincingly in both of those tournaments by players that they know how to beat him, so you have to kind of weigh that in there, but I think that was a pretty good wake-up call for him to really he needs to get his game in order and develop some confidence and really kind of have a mental edge over the field heading into Roland Garros, because if he doesn't pick up either this title or Rome, he probably really needs to pick up both to kind of go in with the confidence, with the mental edge over the field that he usually does when we get to Paris. So it's going to be pretty important for him to do well here. It was notable in the Australian Open this year that Nadal changed his service game in a way that gives him more of an advantage on serve, and I think that will serve him well. No pun intended. That will serve him well in the quarterfinals and semis and finals here. But I do think Nadal takes home a Madrid title this week, and this, what I have no idea who wins this Zverev-Tsitsipas match. This is an absolute coin flip. It is a complete 50-50 match. Even if knowing who wins the first set, I still don't know, because this looks likely to go the distance here. Zverev is playing. He's had a horrific 2019. Like, this is a guy that took major steps in his career over the last 2 seasons, winning Masters, winning the Tour Finals last year, It was entirely expected that he was going to challenge for slams this year, and instead he has been a joke. He hasn't beaten anyone in the top 20 this year. He's lost to players who he should be routinely beating in tournaments that are important. And so we really don't know what has been going on with Zverev to this point in the calendar year. So it's easy to write him off. It's easy to look at him as he lost it, he doesn't have it, he doesn't, But you listen to his media this week, you listen to his press conferences, and you get the sense that he's in a different mind space at this tournament. He's the defending champion here. He knows he plays well here. He knows it's important to start putting together wins on this calendar year, or he's going to see his ranking slip. He's going to get much tougher seeds, much tougher draws, and that's going to drastically impact his ability to compete in these bigger tournaments. And so, I guess if I was forced to make a play on this in play, I would look for Zverev to come away the winner against Tsitsipas. But Tsitsipas is a damn tough opponent, he's going to give him the goods. So
yeah, I know we've spoken about Tsitsipas in the past, and that is it's going to be a tough match. Is there any value in obviously with Nadal being quite a big favorite there, 1.29, Stan Wawrinka 4.4? Is there any betting value in that match?
I think there probably is. I think that's a good look for an under. Nadal, he's serving well enough that I don't expect him to be broken in this. And when his game is peaking, which it appears to be based on the way he played so far this week here, he breaks at just an unbelievable clip. I don't know what the price is on Nadal 2-0, but I would take that at anything better than about 1.78-ish. I think there's value in anything, any number better than 1.78. I would say that the under is a good look, because this has 6-4, 6-3, or 6-3, 6-2 even written on it to me. Again, I don't dismiss that Stan Wawrinka is a very good player, and that he's kind of coming into a little bit of form, but Nadal should take care of him relatively easily today, and set up a pretty good match tomorrow. Assuming we get Nadal Zverev tomorrow, I would look for a price like maybe 1.5-ish on Nadal, and there's probably value in that. He hasn't been getting a whole lot of respect from the bookmakers. It's been really interesting to see, because every clay season Nadal his prices are just outrageously favorable, and they're begging you to take the underdog. But this year it's been a little different, and so you might see here this week and then next week in Rome some value taking the heavy duty favorite in Nadal to pick up a couple titles here as we head into Paris.
Yes, I know. We're going all over the world for this tennis. We are, and all right. So just to recap here as we round off our tennis segment today. What are your favorite tips here heading into the finals, semi-finals of the Madrid Open?
My favorite is the semifinal tomorrow. Djokovic is taking on my guy Dominic Thiem in the semifinals. It's a good little budding rivalry, and it will make for must-see television if you like tennis. They're very compatible on the surface. They're very even. Dominic Thiem played an amazing game today against Roger Federer. It was so entertaining. It looked like he was going to get beat. He defended match points in the tiebreak in the second set, came back to win. It was this is all kind of buoying my spirits as a guy who backed Dominic Thiem to win the French Open. So I'm excited for him. I think he gets the win. I don't think they should have they made him the underdog on the opener, which I don't agree with. I think he should be a small favorite over Djokovic. He has a better pedigree on clay. He has played Djokovic very well over the last 2 seasons on clay. And I know a lot of that was Djokovic wasn't really back to himself when Thiem got him in the last couple of head-to-heads. But all that aside, Thiem is really playing with confidence that we haven't seen from him before this year in his career, and I love it. And I really like his odds to get by Djokovic tomorrow in the semifinals as a small underdog.
There we go. There we go. Very exciting stuff. I know you're going to be on next week as well. I'm obviously away. I'm not in the studio. I'm in your lovely country, the US of A. Yes, I am. So Alex is going to be hosting next, so that should be fun. You two tennis minds dueling it out.
We can do a whole Simona Halep appreciation hour. That'll be fantastic. I can't wait.
I know, especially as well if she wins as well the finals.
That'll be big.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic stuff. Well, Kappa, always a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll check in with you next week.
All right. Thanks for having me. Best of luck, Natalie.
All right. We are now looking UFC 237. Here are the boys. This is the first time I've been able to have you both on at the same time. So introducing Jay Paglia from the Sports Keg and Dave Betts. Where is it? Over there. Dave Betts. How's it going, boys?
Good.
Good. Everyone can hear me. Dave, how's all your equipment working today?
It was a close call. Skype tried to automatically update on me. So I had to quickly uninstall it, come off the internet, and then reinstall the old version.
Well, you're here. Wonderful stuff. And obviously we have got the UFC 237 taking place in Rio de Janeiro this weekend, well, on Saturday. First question is obviously Dave Betts, you've done some very successful parlay systems, and you've now gone 10-0. You've now released, and it's now you've done 10. So is that why you're doing like the second series? We've got like episode. Is that what you're doing? It's like series 2 now. You can do another run of 10.
Because realistically, parlays should never be involved in a serious bankroll. So it is for fun, but they are very profitable if you can play them the correct way. The whole reason for me doing the season thing is just so people can, understand that cashing out is a good thing to do. Spend some money. You don't just have to sit on your bankroll all year round. You know what I mean? So I'll do it seasonally. So we can just cash out rather than just going over for the whole year and ending up on some stupid high number. Take your money and have some fun with it. You know what I mean?
I see. What about you, Jay? And parlay betting. Do you parlay bet for UFC?
I don't parlay much at all, but if I was going to parlay, I think you could be way more successful parlaying fights than games like in football or basketball, because I think there's less variance in mixed martial arts than there is in like a normal basketball game, let's say. Most of the time the better fighter wins the fight unless he gets caught and somebody lands a punch in the right spot. But other than that, most of the time the best fighter wins the fight.
Dave Betts also does obviously the dogs and the odds, and that seems to be winning as well. So what is it? Is it the bookmaker just is not pricing them right, or I don't know. How does that work?
I'm a betting god. That's what it is. Sorry.
But if the favorite always wins, then the dogs and the odds.
The favorite doesn't always win. The favorite doesn't always win. In fact, if you were to continuously bet the favorite, you would be losing. If you continuously bet the favorite on UFC for a whole year, you'll be losing by the end of the year without a shadow of a doubt. You need to pick your spots. You just need to pick your spots. That's what it is, and make sure that your probability is matched up with you're picking your right spots. If you don't, if you just aimlessly pick favorites, you're 100% going to lose, as we've witnessed this year with the main events. Favorites are crashing left, right, and center.
Yeah,
because the bookies.
Well, that's the thing.
The same thing is going to happen this weekend as well with Anderson Silva. The bookies are off again, way off.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Why are they off though? Because obviously the better fighter obviously doesn't mean that they have the shorter odds. It's just it's knowing who is the better fighter, and then often it seems that the bookies are pricing it wrong. Why? And I know obviously UFC is growing in it obviously it's tremendously popular, but it's also growing in popularity over like in the UK. They're changing the times a little bit so people can actually watch it. Because over in Costa Rica, and we can go down to the pub and go and watch go and watch the fights, which is like really good fun. So that obviously makes you more want to have like a bet on it. So why do you think that the bookies are off with their odds? Obviously for a betting point, it makes it great, but for a bookie, not so much, which is music to our ears. Question to Dave.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I don't know. I just think personally, I think the sport is real fresh still. It's not something that the bookmakers are on top of. If you compare it to basketball, football, any of the other sports, the bookmakers have been doing this for decades. So they're fully equipped with what they need when it comes to betting other sports. But when it comes to UFC, it's still fresh, especially European markets. Some bookmakers still don't have UFC available now. So it's always, I think it's just adjustments that the bookmakers are making, and they're just they're just not as good at UFC as they may be at other sports and getting correct lines.
Yeah. All right. So, Jason, you've written both the main event breakdown and the co-main event breakdown. Start us off with Namajunas versus Andrade. How do you see that unfolding?
Definitely geeking out over the fight. I like both these fighters a lot. It's great when you get to see the women headline a pay-per-view card, because it doesn't happen all that often. I think Andrade presents a big challenge for Rose Namajunas. She's built like a truck. She hits hard. She's freakishly strong for her size. She's going to try to take Namajunas down probably and control the fight on the ground. I think Namajunas is probably my favorite fighter in the UFC now, other than maybe Amanda Nunes in terms of females. She went into the fight with Jędrzejczyk, who owned the division for 3 years. She shocked the world as an underdog at like 5.51. I was on her in that fight. And she becomes the champ. She comes right back in a rematch. She beats Joanna again. Now, the interesting thing about the fight tomorrow night is Andrade has won 6 of the last 7 fights, right? The only person she's lost to in that stretch was the former champion, Joanna. Now, Andrade was able to get Joanna to the ground. She could not keep her there, though. She got up easily. And after she got up, she destroyed her on the feet for 5 rounds. Now, Namajunas does everything that Joanna does, and I just think she does it better. Like, she's got the best range and movement, in my opinion, of any female fighter in the UFC. She's got an underrated ground game. She's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Her wrestling's really underrated. She's great in scrambles. I think she's better everywhere, and I think she should be the favorite. She isn't. I backed her at 2.15 earlier in the week, but you could still get her right now at 2.0, and I love her.
Well, yeah, opened up there 2.2, it has dropped to 2.0. Some bookies you can still get like 2.1. William Hill. Would you agree with what Jay is saying there, Dave?
100%. This is, as I was saying before, the spots. I was saying pick your spots, blah blah blah. Yeah, this is a spot that is a good spot to take the underdog. Rose has cashed as the underdog so many times. So many people. I don't know why people underestimate Rose. She's the champion now. People need to stop underestimating her like they have been for the past couple of years, because it's not going to work out for them. And I actually, at the start of the week, I was seeing everybody talk about Andrade, blah, 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 backing up. But now, as we get towards the end of the week, I see a couple people now are clocking on. And they're noticing that the value is on Rose. There's no value on Andrade. Yeah. Unless she went to about minus 110 or 1.91 on the decimal, there's no value in that. There's no value at all. So... even though I'm not betting Rose, because I already have 2 underdogs who I prefer, I do think it is a good bet, and I do side with Rose to win this weekend in Brazil, which is going to be tough. But
Yeah, and you both are saying obviously that she is the best in this fight, and yet Price is kind of echoing what we were saying at the beginning. Interesting stuff. And moving over to the co main event here, Sylvia versus Cannonier. Sorry about if I pronounce these wrong. Who do you like here, Jason?
This is a really tough fight. Anderson Silva is probably one of the 3 best fighters in the history of the sport. And I feel bad as an MMA fan that I have to actually watch this guy fight right now. He's almost 45 years old. He's literally withering to dust in front of our eyes, okay? He would absolutely destroy this kid if this was 8 years ago. He's won 1 fight in the last 7 years. And, say what you will about this kid, but he won 3 out of 4 fights when he was a light heavyweight. He's the 10th ranked middleweight fighter right now in the UFC. Is he a traditional top 10 middleweight? No, I don't think so. But he's still, ranked. And if I had to bet this fight, I'm not betting this fight. Mm-hmm. If I had to bet the fight, I would probably take the favorite only because Silva is done, and he just doesn't know it yet. Like, he's just got to stop fighting. But I will probably avoid this fight, but I lean to Jared Cannonier.
And what's the price for that one? I'm just trying to pull up some odds here. What
right now, I'm seeing like 1.72, which I mean, that's like on the tail end where I think I would be willing to go, even though it's going to end up being a small pass for me. But I wouldn't hate anybody for taking that because Anderson Silva's 45 years old, and I think the sport's finally passed him by.
Yeah. I just pulled them up now. Yeah, and funny enough, he opened at 1.67. You could now get as high as 1.75 with Unibet's the bookies I'm quoting of as a European. So back to you there, Dave. Do you agree? It definitely sounds like Jay's made a very compelling argument to back him up at that price. But have you got an official play?
I'm on the opposite side. I
don't blame you, Dave. I do agree with Jay on the majority of the things that he's saying. Other than I feel like Anderson has a couple more fights against this type of opponent. I keep watching the Jared Cannonier replays, and I'm just not seeing anything from Jared that is going to cause Anderson any problems other than his power. If he can finish Anderson, then I believe he will win it. If we're going to the scorecards, in Brazil, every single punch that Anderson lands, the entire crowd are going to go, way, way. And it's them type of crowds which make the judges scared. And the history of judging in Brazil is atrocious. They will hand that win to their Brazilian fighter. All Anderson has to do is not get knocked out, in my opinion. If he can stay on the outside, throw a couple jabs, couple leg kicks for the 3 rounds, is win the fight. So for me, in my opinion, all he has to do is avoid the knockout. And when I take into consideration the 230 price, and which he opened at, Anderson is one of my underdog players this week. When I go through the cards, I don't pick many underdogs. I try and scour for my favorite 2. So I'll only ever have 2 underdogs. I try to pick my favorite 2. And this week, Anderson Silva is going to be one of them. Probably not now because the odds are declining. I think Jared opened up at 163. And what were you guys saying? Is 175 now or 17 something?
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna say I took it off. I took it off screen. It's on one of my pages. No, no, there I am. Gerard is now 1.75, and then Silva is 2.25.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of money that's came in on Anderson. I'm not sure what Anderson's at now, but if he was at 2, I probably wouldn't take him at 2. But I got him at 2.30, which I think being in Brazil, he's also 9-1 in Brazil. That's another thing we have to take into consideration. He's only been beaten in Brazil once. So, yeah, against anybody else, I
home
think
soil
Anderson will probably
advantage,
lose.
if you
Other than
call it
Jared.
that.
But,
I think, Dave, that's a fair argument, because if you look at the caliber of opponent that Anderson Silva's lost to the last 4 or 5 fights, they are top level guys. They are some of the best in the sport. And this is a massive step down in competition for him, definitely. I think he's as live in this fight as he's been in a long time. So I don't hate anybody for taking Anderson Silva. It's a tough fight.
I like that. I don't hate anybody. That's good. No time for hating in this world. All right. So, Dave, you mentioned that that was one of the underdogs that you're going for, and that you went for 2. So, what be your second?
I haven't checked the odds, so I'm not sure if he is even still an underdog. But Kurt Holloway versus Thiago Moises, I'm not sure why the bookmaker had this priced at what it was. Kurt's on a losing streak, but the guy has lost to the Murderers Row. Like, he's losing to guys that are top level competition. I just don't think Thiago is ready for it. I think the bookie may be thinking, oh, Brazil, Thiago, he's got a good record, blah, blah, blah. But nah, Kurt's your guy this week, I think, in the lightweight division. The size difference is huge as well. That's another thing to point out. The size, experience, it's just going against Thiago this week. I'm not sure what the odds are now, but if you can still get Kurt at underdog prices,
you can get him at 2-1-2 right now.
2-1-2.
Yeah, 2.12 right now.
That sounds all right to me. I'd still take that. Definitely.
Yeah. Are you taking him at that price, Jay?
Yeah, I agree with everything Dave just said, and I think size is a huge factor. So I completely agree. I took him at plus 120, which is what, 2.2, right? The odds screw me up because I'm in the America, but yeah, I took him at 2.2. But I agree completely.
Yeah.
On the feet standing, Thiago, he has no chance. Not a chance. On the floor, maybe, but I don't think he'll be able to take it to the floor. Even though who was his previous Barcelos managed to take him down, but the caliber of opponent, it's 2 different worlds. So yeah, Kurt and Anderson Silva are my 2 dogs in their odds players this week.
All right. What are your main plays this week, Jay, that you feel strongly about for fight night on Saturday?
Well, I completely agree with one of the picks that Dave had in his punching parlay, the Guida BJ Penn fight. BJ Penn's another fighter that has absolutely no business fighting on the card. He's another guy on the wrong side of 40. He has not won a fight in the UFC in 9 years. Let's put that into perspective for a minute, right? You're a professional fighter that hasn't won in a decade, okay? Now, he should get destroyed. Clay Guida's been a fan favorite of, like, real MMA fans forever, much like BJ Penn. He's a warrior. He's also 37 years old, but Guida's shown at least his last 3 fights, he's won 2 out of the last 3 fights that he's fought in the last 2 years. I think that he still has gas in the tank. You know what I mean? I think he should be crippling for BJ Penn because he brings serious pressure into the octagon, and the older BJ Penn gets against strikers that really pressure him, he wilts. He's just getting old. And Guida's a guy that bites down on the mouthpiece, and either you're getting knocked out or he's getting knocked out. That's just the way that he fights. Now, he's a minus 700 favorite, which is absurd. I would never bet that ever in the UFC. But you can get him inside the distance at minus 160. I don't know what that is for like odds, like for you guys, but minus 160, and Dave took him inside the distance too, right, Dave, in the punch and parlay. So I completely agree. That's definitely a play for me.
And what are the odds there then, Dave? Do you remember the minus 160?
Clay Guida to win inside the distance was 1.65, and that's what I tipped
right.
on the punch and parlay article.
Yeah, and you do 2 bets on the punching parlay. So you're that's the first one. What's the second? 3 this time.
3.
Ooh, you're stepping it up a bit for season 2.
There was 3 last week.
Huh?
There was 3 last week as well.
Was there 3 last week? Okay. Normally it's been 2. Yeah. All right. So 3. So what else you going for in your punching parlay?
Barcelos, the guy I was talking about who beat Kurt Holloway, he's also fighting on the card. The guy is a monster. I can't see how any fighter debuting in the UFC deserves to fight a guy like this, because it's just not going to go down well. It was a last minute arranged fight, but the guy is fighting. What's his name? I can't remember his name. Carlos Huachin. When I was watching the tape on him, the guy has no takedown defense whatsoever. He comes out striking, throwing these wild punches. That's all good when you're on the amateur scenes and you're fighting lower caliber opponents. But this guy's now stepping into the UFC. Is about to face a guy in his hometown who has 10 times more experience. He's already fought in the UFC. He's on a winning streak, and I think it's going to be lights out for Carlos. I was kind of debating in the punch and parlay whether I should put Barcelos to finish the fight or whether I should put Clay Guida to finish the fight. I was tossing and turning. In the end, I did pick Clay, just based on BJ Penn's whatever that guy is doing right now. That guy's gone. Side note on BJ Penn, he's out of octagon lifestyle as well. The rumors that go around are not very pretty at all. Apparently he's got a lot of medical issues that he ignores and he doesn't deal with. Apparently he's an abuser. I could go on. I don't want to, start talking crap about BJ Penn, but yeah, he's going to get knocked out of the weekend. Barcelos is going to win. And then the final play on the punch and parlay is Irene Aldana, who is fighting Betch Kohea. Now, they just had the weigh-ins, and Betch has came in 5 or 6 pounds overweight, which can be worrying because she's going to have that extra power. But I don't even think she's going to get close to Irene. Irene's got the length. She's 10 times better at striking. Betch has done nothing ever, really, in the UFC. The only advantages now Betch has got is that she's fighting in Brazil and that she's heavier because she hasn't cut weight. The only advantages for Betch. She's never impressed me in any other fights, really. Ronda Rousey knocked her out, and everybody knows that Ronda Rousey is not the greatest striker the UFC has ever seen. Holly Holm knocked her out as well. She has took a long break. But I think she's 36 or 35. There's not much she's going to come back with, I don't think. So Irene Aldana, Clay Guida inside the distance, and then Barcelos. That's the punch and parlay this week. And it's getting some good odds this week, actually. 2.69, I think the odds were. 2.69.
I like the Correa pick a lot. I completely agree with Dave. Correa's, she's basically a part-time fighter. She was originally supposed to fight Aldana in 2018. It didn't happen. She hasn't won a fight since 2017. She comes into the fight losing 2 of her last 3. She's never impressed me either. She's a slow fighter. She tries to do the majority of her work against the cage. She's given up a ton of height and reach. Aldana has a great frame for bantamweight, superior striking, her movement's really fluid, and Correa is going to be chasing her around the entire fight. She's a notorious slow starter. She drops the first round in every fight anyway. So it's gonna be over before it starts, and 99% of women MMA fights go the distance. So I'm gonna pray that this fight goes the distance, and I took her by decision at 2.0. That's what I took Aldana on at. You think it
All
goes the
right.
distance, Dave?
I didn't want you to ask me that.
It's tough, right?
It's rough. You know why? Because I actually, when I look at Irene and her previous fights, she's got knockout power. She does have knockout power. We haven't seen it in the UFC, and I think her previous 4 fights have gone the distance. Irene Aldana.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, her previous 4 fights have gone the distance. So, yeah, with that price and considering all of her UFC fights have gone to decision, I think it will go. Yeah, it probably will go the distance. And knowing the female fights, it should go the distance.
Right.
But with Betcha's got the extra weight now, so that should help the decision as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I do like that play actually. I do.
Yeah. Have you been on? Obviously, Jason's got a sports show as well on YouTube. The Sports Keg. Have you guys been on together? Do you guys discuss?
I haven't gotten him on the show yet, but he's in the chat. He's starting to come in the chat. I beg him to come on the show for fight casts.
Great stuff. Well, listen, Jay,
you have to remember,
I know
5 hours difference. That's the problem. So
I know, buddy.
When you're at home and you're like, you're chilling, it's evening time for you. For me, I have to be quiet. Kids are in bed. Blah 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that I haven't wanted to come on. Do you know what? I'm gonna come on Saturday. That's it. You've done it. I'm coming on Saturday. What time do you go on?
Well, the card starts at 5:00 Eastern in the United States. So what's the 5-hour difference for you?
I'll come on for the main card. That's what I'll do.
Oh, okay. Sweet, man.
Yeah.
I'll be on for hours before that, all through the prelims. Yeah, it's been going well. We're up 130 units in 3 months.
There we go. And sorry, so where can our viewers now come see you? So because you pretty much film every night, don't you?
Yep, we'll be on tonight at 7 Eastern. Just go to the Sports Keg YouTube channel, and tonight is Kegcast 61. Can't wait.
Okay,
Dave and I hit 2 props in the NBA last night.
We didn't talk about the greatest Brazilian fighter to ever live.
That's true. That's true. Now, what a tough call, Dave. I love Volkanovski. My guess was sit back, enjoy the fight, and pray it goes the distance, and take that it goes the distance at 2.15. Think it's got a shot to go the distance?
Yeah, distance is exactly how I see it panning out. And if from a betting perspective, you're right. There's no point in betting on this fight. There's no edge. Volkanovski, countless unknowns coming from his side. We know Jose Aldo. We know what he's going to bring. Him and Anderson Silva are the 2 greatest Brazilian fighters that have ever lived, in my opinion. So, yeah, it's going to be, for me anyway, it's going to be one of my favorite cards this year so far, I think.
Can't wait. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So very quickly, guys, because we've got to wrap up. We are actually running slightly late. Favorite bet this weekend, Jay?
Rose, Nami Yunus at plus or 2.0. Or Aldana by decision at 2.0.
There you go. Same question to you, Dave Betts.
There is no one singular favorite bet for me. The punch and parlay is 10-0. 10 weeks. Oddsmarket.com. Go into betting tips. Go into the UFC fighting section, and then there's my favorite bet all laid out for you, written out.
I'll grab the link. All right, fantastic stuff. And you can follow Dave at DaveBets_, and then at the Sports Keg CEO on Twitter. Give these guys a follow, and hopefully, if you want more of them, you may see them both together on Saturday for the main event. All right, boys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday, and I'll see you next week. Best of luck.
Peace out.
All righty, guys. I think we're now going to move over to, yes, we are. Here he is. Eric, how are you doing?
Hi. How are you, Natalie?
I am very good, thank you. I am in the mighty US of A, and I'm here visiting my family for a week. So this is why I am filming out
Different
of the studio.
location.
Yes. So, but listen, Spanish GP, obviously this weekend. There's interesting. So I've just finished, obviously wrapping up UFC segment and heading into MotoGP. I have to say, Mercedes is looking. There's always such long shots on Mercedes, and where they keep winning. Why is that?
Yeah, it's because Ferrari have kind of just been the better team, really. It's crazy, really.
So why aren't the bookies like picking up on this and the odds drop? Like I get I get why Mercedes is winning, but why is there still value on them week in, week out? Listen, I don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I just take the lovely odds. But why is it so?
You mean Mercedes are favourite this weekend, so they
Yeah.
are.
Yes,
5
they
to 2
are.
is the best it is the best you can get with Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah.
So it is. But
Yeah. I know you.
yeah,
And so go on.
but the Ferrari were for the first 2 races they were kind of 50-50 price wise. We didn't really know who's going to be favourites, but then the third race and the fourth race, the bookies have pushed Mercedes into favourites, so they have, but just slightly, like not much, like maybe from 3-1 of Mercedes to a 4-1 Ferrari, like.
Yeah. But okay, so who are you on then right now?
This weekend the first 2 weekends I took Mercedes and they won. And then I started fading them because I just thought it's time for Ferrari to get a win. In the last 2 weekends, Mercedes won again. So this weekend I'm going with Ferrari again. Third time, last chance to pull the trigger on them.
Mm-hmm. Let me
I've taken Vettel to win the race at 5-1. So I have. He's the first 2 races he wasn't great. We thought his teammate Charles Leclerc was going to be better than him, but the last 2 races Vettel has shown that he's probably the more experienced driver. But yeah,
so you're going on Vettel to win the Spanish Grand Prix.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, 100%.
Nice.
But I wouldn't put anyone off backing Charles Leclerc either, because I could be on a Ferrari winner and be on the wrong driver.
Really? Because a lot of people are thinking that this is Lewis Hamilton's to lose, but you're obviously completely disagree with that.
Well, nearly every Formula One race is almost Lewis Hamilton's to lose. So if you think about it, he's that good. He won there, but he's 6-4, so he is. I see 6-4 there now. But the Mercedes last year, in 2018 and 2017, a Mercedes broke down in the Spanish GP. So there might be just something about this track that's unlucky for them. It was Bottas last year and Hamilton in 2017.
And you think it's a Vettel Leclerc this time around?
Yeah, even just if you weigh up like the chances of Ferrari winning 5 races in a row, like I know they're the best team, but surely Mercedes, surely Ferrari can get their chance eventually, because they're not that much worse than Mercedes, really. They're not.
Mm-hmm. So who do you think will finish on the Sorry.
Yeah, they had the second race of the year virtually won until Charles Leclerc's engine turbo went on him. Other than that, they had the race won. But yeah, I just think this weekend could be the weekend. But I as I said in my article, if Lewis Hamilton has a bad qualifying, he'll probably drift out to like 3-1, hopefully. And I would back Lewis Hamilton then at 3-1, just to kind of hedge the bets a bit.
So are you saying that you're not playing Lewis Hamilton right now just purely because of the price, but he stands a very, very good chance of winning?
Purely because of the price. But the thing with Formula 1 betting is you can never, there's so many factors and so many chances of people, different riders winning. You have to take value. If you bet the favorite all the time, you might win more than you lose and still not be up a whole lot of money.
I see. What other bets are there? Obviously, because we're talking to win. For example, who do you think will finish on the podium?
Yeah, this weekend in Spain, I have Max Verstappen to finish on the podium at 15-8. So I do. Decent price. Again, you're hoping that some of the Ferraris and Mercedes slip up a bit, but it's where Max Verstappen got his first ever Formula 1 victory, and he seems to like this track. You could pull him. You could take him to win the race. I think he's 12-1 to win the race, but I wouldn't bet him to win the race. I think him to finish on the podium at 15-8 is a good price. And on the top 6 finish, I have Kimi Räikkönen finishing the top 6, and that's at 3-1.
Ooh.
It stands a great chance. Again, we're hoping some of the top guys to drift out a bit or crash or whatever, but all you need is luck. There's a lot of luck involved in Formula 1 betting.
Yeah. I understand you're going, and it sounds almost a little bit as well the same. Like I sort of feel like the very similar conversation to what I'm having with Craig Edwards as well. It's like going like he doesn't like to take the favorites, like because it's just that there's no value, so he goes like for those like long odds, and obviously there's a lot of variables inside, so he's making his money that way. So it seems like there's some comparables there. One of the things that we've spoken about in the past is like rain. But I'm guessing if it's in Spain, are we planning on rain? Is there going to be rain in Spain?
There's no rain planning for Spain this weekend, so there's not.
So could heat be a factor?
Yeah, it's not. The rain is not. It's not as big a factor in Formula 1 as it is in MotoGP. It's still a factor, just down to the sense that some drivers might be slightly better in the rain, but I wouldn't say there'd be more. Yeah, some drivers, a lot of English drivers, which would suit probably Lewis Hamilton. A lot of English drivers seem to be better in the rain, just because when they were younger, they've probably raced a lot more in the rain than some of the Spanish and Italian and riders like etc.
Yeah, but what about the heat? Because obviously you were talking about Bottas like engine exploding and stuff. Like, could heat be a factor in this one?
For the engines, yeah, it can cause problems. It can, but this is where the higher scale Mercedes, Ferrari, their machines, because they've more money, can develop better parts to deal with the heat. So the chances of any of their cars breaking down the heat is much less than the lower cars. So it is.
And who does this court suit best? Or racetrack, sorry.
A track, yeah. This track suits.
I was like,
it suits
racetrack.
This track suits Max Verstappen. I think Max Verstappen is really good at this track. He's proven it. He's finished on the podium every time. I forgot to say that earlier. He's finished on the podium every time, bar the one race he didn't finish the race. So we can excuse him for that. But in terms of actual cars, I think it suits this Ferrari just slightly better than Mercedes, and that's why I'm pulling the trigger on Ferrari again this week, but just slightly.
Okay. All right. So just take us through. Obviously, we're going to wrap up this segment. What are your bets for this weekend? I know you mentioned them during, but let's wrap them up.
Yeah, I'll go through all the bets here because I do have a good few prop bets I like to do just to hedge all my bets every which way. I go with Sebastian Vettel race winner 5-1. We're going with Max Verstappen top 3 finish 15-8. Kimi Räikkönen top 6 finish 3-1. I'm going with either Mercedes not to finish the race, as they've done in the last 2 years, at 4-1. I'm going with Carlos Sainz not to classify, which basically means he doesn't finish the race, at 9-4. He's in a Renault. Renault have been like not finishing races a lot this year, so I'm going to take a hint on that one. The first car to retire, a Haas, Team Haas, either of the riders to retire first, 6-1. I'm just thinking there might be 9th, 10th in the grid. The race might start. Could, crash, bump into someone, whatever. And the biggest price I'm going for this week and the last bet is Kimi Räikkönen fastest lap of the race, 66-1.
That's quite a few. How much are you putting on each of these bets?
Every bet is half unit except for Vettel. That's 1 unit. Straight win.
All right.
All the rest of them
Wow.
are half units.
That's a lot. Okay. All right. Awesome stuff, Eric. Sorry about this segment. Was slow. The UFC one took up quite a bit there, but thank you very much. And obviously, if you want to read more about all of these bets, head on over to oddsmarket.com. Eric has written an article for us over there. So best of luck, buddy, and we'll check in with you next week.
Yeah, hopefully I win.
Yes.
See you next week.
Yes. See you next week. Bye-bye. All right, final segment, and we're going to have to make it super quick here. CSGO Blast, and there he is, Adam. You're supposed to be here. We couldn't get hold of you, so we were like, all right, let's bring in Eric.
That's because I was posting a live tip in the chat, and so my Skype was minimized, and I didn't notice. And I've been chatting about the game right now. We're in a good position to win it, but. We'll see how it goes here. But yeah, no, we can do this fast. The tournament's already started.
Yep.
So yeah, where do you want to begin?
Well, I'm going to say, can anyone stop Astralis from clinching glory?
Well, NIP is trying the NIP, the Ninjas in Pajamas. They're trying their best right now. We've got Astralis on the opening match to cover 5.5 rounds. They're currently up by 4. But again, these Blast Pro Series tournaments, they're very much they're only 6 teams, so it's kind of like, does Astralis feel like winning it? If they do, then there's no value really on betting them, and there's no value really on betting against them. They're kind of at around that 1.5 to 1.65 range every single time. So Astralis is going to be the number 1 team in the world for the foreseeable future. Nobody's really put in the time to catch up to them. I don't like betting against them because they're legitimately that good. Blast Pro Series is kind of the only tournament you'd probably consider it, because it's a kind of a jokey tournament in the sense that it's just 2 days best of ones, which is best of 1 map, as opposed to like a full tournament where they're playing best of 3, best of 5s all the way through. So I would say don't fade Astralis, but don't bet them blindly either. Try to talk to me about it first, pick the right maps, that sort of thing.
Okay, well, listen, we are talking to you, and we're asking you for some, do you have any live tips, and what are the tips moving forward? Because it's interesting. I think Jay said, we know nothing about esports. I was even talking with Wellcap, and I said, just because he was the first one on the show, and then we were like, and I said, oh, Adam's coming on talking esports. He's like, esports, woo, I do not understand. And I was like, I'm getting there. People are trying to call me out when they were like, Natalie, do you even know? I know a little bit, a little tiny bit. And
that was failed in life. He said that. He's in the chat today, so he's gonna pick up on the fact that you're gonna be sharp at this someday.
Exactly. I speak with Adam all the time. Of course, I know a little bit. All right. So as we wrap up the show here, so any live plays right now, and second question is looking ahead. What can we bet on?
Well, actually, while we were chatting there, that live pick that I posted in the chat just cashed, so that was awesome. That was nice. That's on the. That's on that Dota tournament we talked about last week. Yeah. So Tune in for the show, and maybe there'll be an expert in here that feels like dropping some live tips. And but yeah, as far as the Blast Pro tournament, I've only posted on my Twitter some plays for tonight. The one that I posted in the article lost, actually, and there's a team from Portugal called Giants. They're the biggest underdog now. I don't really know what to think, so I'm just going to sort of watch and see their stats and numbers tonight, and maybe assess for tomorrow. But Blast Pro Series, well, I haven't had a losing CSGO tournament yet in 2019. Came close to having a losing one in the Sydney one last week, but still got just out of there with a marginal profit. So I'm feeling confident in CSGO. I do have a good read on the teams. I don't chase, for that profit, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow as well. Day one is usually where you kind of see the teams that were ready and prepped and prepared to go for this LAN in particular. So yeah, just it's a small boutique tournament, and we can try to find some value either based on the maps or based on the teams that look good tomorrow.
Okay, all right. So what have you got?
So for tonight, the two remaining ones that I have, let me just pull it up. I've got Cloud9 covering 4.5 rounds against Nadas Vincer on Mirage. Now, the reason behind that is Cloud9 has pretty much only had this tournament to prepare for over the last little while. Mirage has always been a good map for them. It's a good map for Navi as well. But because it's best of one, I think they'll be prepared for this, and they just have to hit their shots. That's really all it's going to come down to. And then the other play was I have Ants, the Finnish youngsters, playing against Ninjas in Pajamas. And these two matches are starting at 9:15 my time, so that's 4:15 Eastern. And I've got Ants to cover 2.5 rounds on Nuke against NIP. NIP is not bad on Nuke, but I think they'll struggle on T-side, which we've seen recently. So as long as Ents can get 6 to 7 rounds on T-side, even maybe 5, I think NIP will struggle. And it comes down to pistol rounds sometimes too. But those are the two remaining plays tonight. Yeah, so we're off to a good start on the tournament. And I know with the UFC guys, they took up most of our time. But I love hearing them talk. And it was actually great having contrasting opinions discuss the various ways to look at a particular fight. So I think that might be something fun to do in the future as well.
Yeah, and I say as well, there's a lot of things that they did agree on. It's very good, obviously with Sports Bet Daily, and as we come to sort of like learn more sports, and obviously it's like a bit of a process and trying to understand. There's definitely like a lot of value in UFC betting, and not often the best fighter can be the underdog, which is in terms of odds, which is very interesting indeed. All right, Adam Booth. I think next week, you are on with Alex will be presenting, and I think you're going to be coming on with him. So it can be you and Alex. Alex is going to be sitting in my seat and enjoying.
I can't wait to make him feel uncomfortable and ask him esports questions just to see how he responds to it.
I can't wait to see it. I really can't. All right, wonderful stuff. Adam, have a wonderful weekend, and thank you to everybody watching, and to all of our guests there. We had Whale Kappa, Dave Betts, Jay from the Sports Keg, Eric as well at Oblivion Sports. Sorry, I forgot to say that in the when I spoke with him. And yes, and to you. So take care, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Nat. Bye.